What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to another episode of the NATO versus Warsaw Pact group build. We're back on the Su-15 and today, guys, I'm really hoping to go ahead and get the tail planes on, fix up a couple of seams, work a lot here on the front nose, do a little more scratch building, finish up some painting, and well, finally get some seams all nicely squared away. We have a lot of work to do, so let's go ahead and dive right on in first with that insert here for the cockpit. We went ahead and last episode covered that with some super glue. That really worked well and I like how it's kind of turned out, but we do have to come back in, we have to sand it down and re-scribe a lot of those panel lines. So that's kind of the first area I want to tackle today. Other than that though, installing the rear tails shouldn't be all that bad and doing some scratch building should be a lot of fun. So starting off here, we're going to grab our jeweler files and we're going to work on this seam that we went ahead and covered up with super glue. It's a big seam too. It goes all along the sides, around the back and the front. So let's go ahead and get our sanding done here with our jeweler files and we'll go ahead and pull out some sandpaper. Got a couple different grits here ready to go. And then we will see how this turns out. So let's get started. Alright everybody, not too bad. As you can see, we've done a little bit of work here on those panel lines that look a lot better. Everything is nicely smoothed out, so I am pleased with how this is turning out so far. The front and rear parts of the canopy fit perfectly. I like how much detail you can see in there, so again, I'm pretty happy with that. But one thing does kind of bother me. The rear decking here right behind the pilot seat is not accurate. I mean, again, nothing on this kit is accurate, but we just want to go ahead and kind of up the level of detail just a little bit because it doesn't match the front of it. So I went ahead and took a spin through my parts box. I found some interesting pieces that might work, and we're going to just scratch build the back section here. And hopefully that works out a little bit better. Got this actuator for an air brake. I believe it's off of a FJ4 Fury, but as you can see, we can go ahead and clean off this detail and glue it down right to the back of this seat. So that should be pretty easy to do. Of course, we need to go ahead and clean off some of this detail back here because I can't glue any parts down to it. Using my X-Acto knife blade and of course some jeweler files, we're going to go ahead and file down and shave off all of this raised detail here, which isn't correct anyway, and then we're going to replace it with our own scratch build details. I've got a couple of cylinders, I have this actuator, so I think we're looking pretty decent on parts. Once this is all nicely smoothed out, we can do a lot of scratch building, do some wiring in there, just have fun with it. So let's go ahead and back into that time lapse, push forward, see what we can do. Not too shabby, everybody. I like how this has turned out. So I'm moving over now to the front windscreen. Now in the real Su-15, we have some form of a box that hangs down right in the center of that front windscreen. I don't know what it is really, maybe some sort of a rangefinder or something. It has a dial and a couple of wires coming off of it. So we're going to go ahead and recreate that with this spare gun sight that I found off of an FW-190. Just real quick off camera, I went ahead and overcoated the front and the rear of the cockpit here with that interior color that I made up. And now we're going to come back, we're going to do some detail painting and paint up all the boxes and the individual wires this flat black color. Should be pretty simple to do. Then we have to come back, do a little bit of dry brushing, do a little bit of work there installing that rear tail and the tail planes. And then lastly, we're going to mask off the canopy and get that all tacked into place. Let's continue. Alright everybody, we are back and I like how everything has turned out so far. The dry brushing worked perfectly. I have everything nicely masked off here for the windscreen and that rear sliding section of the canopy. Tail sections are on. I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out. So let's go ahead and glue down that front windscreen. We're going to use some basic Elmer's school glue. Nothing fancy. The nice thing about this type of glue is it's not going to damage the part. It's not going to hurt any of the paint. It's going to be really easy to use. Plus it's water soluble and you can always wipe off the excess. Honestly, it's a lot safer to use this than to try something like super glue or even some of the Tamiya glue. Then you have damaged clear parts and that never looks good, especially on something that's so visible. Using the exact same technique, we're going to go ahead and tack down the rear sliding portion, and then we can come back, we can overcoat the outside of this canopy with our interior color, and then overcoat everything with a nice primer coat. Probably use some Res primer to go ahead and get this thing looking great. We can check our panel lines, we can check all of our seams, make sure everything is looking nice and smooth, and I think we'll be pretty happy to go ahead and move on from there. But that is going to do it for us today, guys. The Su-15 is moving right along. We've got our wings and our tail planes all nicely installed. We have a little bit of work to do there on the back seams, just a tiny bit. A little bit of Mr. Surfacer should fill up a couple of seams. So until our next episode, you guys know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we will see you back here on the next episode of the NATO versus Warsaw Pact group build and our Su-15. Thanks so much, everybody. We will see you soon.